Hi, welcome to Transitions. Today I have a number of people with me and they're going to talk about their personal story as well. They'll show us how people who are transgender can change their look through makeup, accessories. As well, we'll have the Executive Director of the Manitoba Human Rights Commission who will shed some light on human rights and some of the legislation right here in Manitoba. But first, join me in welcoming my first guest, Lara. And Lara, can you tell me about and tell our viewers about your early beginnings as a person who is transgender?
Yeah, I was, it's my earliest memory. It honestly is my earliest memory is something's wrong, you know? I should be a girl. And it's interesting because today I think kids will say, and when they assess children, they say, I am a girl. But from the generation I came from, that just would have been inconceivable. I don't think culturally people could actually conceive of that. If I had gone to my parents, and my parents were not intolerant people, and said, I'm a girl, they would have taken me, you know, what we used to call the rubber room, right? But I knew that there was a disconnect between how I felt inside and my physical body. And I didn't think it was madness. And by the time I was 7 or 8, because I was kind of precocious, I knew there were people like me. And by the time I was 10 or 11, I knew that people were changing their gender and going through a medical process. But until much, much later, I didn't think that I had the fortitude or this courage or the stamina or the wherewithal to do it for myself. And even though I was accepting of myself, I knew that it was a shameful thing to be in our culture. And so I just kept it quiet because I wanted status and I wanted popularity and I wanted things that people want. I wanted people to respect me. And it felt at the time that if you came out as a transgender person, you lost all your respect and all your status. And people made fun of you and they hated you. This was the message you were sent almost daily on television. Transgender people were a joke. And I just, you know, I wish I'd done it sooner, but I didn't feel I could do it, you know?
Now, do you provide any guest speaking arrangements or so on with schools or with community centers or community groups or to get the word out there that people need to listen to kids
exactly.
when the kids are trying to say
any opportunity I have,
this is
absolutely.
Not me. This is not me.
I mean, I do it in an anecdotal and personal way, and because I'm a performer and I have an opportunity to speak to people like you, because I'm kind of known in the community, I'm able to do that. There are people much more educated and trained in this particular thing that can do a much better job. But yes, I will tell I have certainly talked to parents whose kids have come to them and basically said, I'm transgender, including people in our own family. And I would say to anybody, you have to listen to the child. The most destructive word, I think, in the vocabulary, and it's a non-medical term, it's not a psychiatric term, it is just a belief people have that I think can lead to suicide, which is it's just a phase. And children do not go through gender back and forth phases beyond a very early age in their development. If your child is 7 or 8 and they are consistently averring that they are a different gender than their presentation, you should take them seriously, because the result of not taking them seriously can be fatal.
And also, I'm seeing where, like, I go to some conferences, or at least one conference a year, and we look at how people are affected, you know, personally, how other people are affected. And I think that when you save lives by accepting people, because there are kids out there who think that it's not even worth living.
Exactly.
And that's really sad. That is
the reason
really
they
sad.
do, and this is interesting, transgender people and transgender youth have suicide rates that are exponentially explosive beyond the general population. When they are given support and access to health care, those suicide rates reduce back down to normal levels. It is the treatment of transgender people and the lack of access to proper care that causes depression, not being transgender yourself. You can accept that in yourself if you are treated with dignity and respect.
But you are a highly accomplished person as the creator of the Winnipeg Comedy Festival. You do some excellent presentations at McNally Robinson, and that's where I met you.
That's where you met me, yes.
So the fact that you are who you are is a very great thing. I mean, out of all of that happened to you.
And it's a cautionary tale.
Despite all of that.
Yes.
Despite all of that.
But it happened because I didn't come out. If I'd come out as trans at 19, I might not have had the same life. And this is why I have a responsibility to fight for trans rights. Right?
Yes.
You know, and it's part of the reason that people don't.
Yes.
We have to get to a place where we conceive of, in the Philippines, an elected public official who's transgender, a transgender mayor, a transgender prime minister, that we're just regular, normal people who are accepted as a part of the great variation of biological and human diversity.
Well, I think that you have a lot to
and
give
I have to
yet.
check my
You have a lot
privilege,
to give yet, because you as a person is just a great asset to our community. And
You're right. You're so
I have
right.
to thank you. I have some other guests that we will be
You don't need
meeting.
other guests after that. I'm terrific.
But no, you're
No,
wonderful.
stop it.
So thank you
Stop it.
for
You're embarrassing
joining me here on
Thank
the show.
you.
I'm serious.
Okay.
Okay, so please come back. We're going to have a short break, and we'll be right back. Thanks for rejoining us here on Transitions. Amanda, it's been a pleasure meeting you.
Likewise.
And also, I'm very happy that I'm getting to know you, Tobias, a lot better, because given that you're our editor and our floor manager here on Transitions, it's really been a pleasure working with you. Now, today you volunteered to be our model here to show how cosmetics can really help people who are transgender to change their look. And also, Amanda, you shared your talents with me as well, and to help me with my makeup in applying it, and I'm very thankful for that. Can you tell us a little bit about what you did? Because we have a picture that we will just show, and you will, of course, be helping us to make sure that that is up there. And maybe you can talk about what you saw before you started to do the makeup.
Yeah, well, what I noticed with Tobias is he had really nice skin. And I mean, the most fundamental thing before you do any makeup is making sure that the skin is well prepped. So you want to make sure that the skin is good. When the skin's good, like, I mean, a good skincare regimen every day. Before you do apply any makeup, you want to go in with a moisturizer and a primer. Those are two, like the next utmost important things when doing makeup. So making sure that you have a good foundation, right? Otherwise, your skin can be bumpy and whatnot. Again, making sure that you shave is really going to be another important thing. If it's really nice and smooth, then the product's going to adhere to the skin much nicer than having a bumpy texture. Everyone is different. Some people may be on the hormones. Some people are, you know, they don't have as much facial hair because they're going in for procedures to remove the hair. So it's not coming in as fast. And for others, they have to be shaving a little bit more. So you just want to watch for even the ingrowns and whatnot, making sure that the skin's being well taken care of.
So can you tell us what you did here? Tobias has some eyebrows there that would you normally have suggested then that if somebody came in to have their makeup done, you would?
Yeah, eyebrows are super important.
Wax are tweeze? Or?
He has really nice, like you guys will see in the before picture, he has really nice full eyebrows. So with his brow, I would recommend threading. So threading's just going to give him a really nice clean shape, and it's to me it's a lot faster than the wax, and it doesn't hurt as much as the wax. So I would either recommend any kind of hair removal just to clean up the eyebrows. So we kind of improvise with makeup to give him the high point when doing achieving a feminine look. We really want to focus on the high point to our eyebrow. A lot of men's brows are more so flat, so just focusing on the high point.
Right. Yeah.
And then we carried it into the eye makeup. So we gave him like a smoky eye. You're wanting it, you know, when doing, if you're going to go more subtle on the lip, you want to go a little heavier on the eye. And we finished the eye with a lash, so full band lash.
No, full as opposed to the corner,
you could
right?
have, there's different variations of lashes. So there's thousands of lashes out there. We went with more of a natural but glam lash. So we achieved that quite well. We put a little bit of shadow under the eye just so it looks more complete. You don't want the eyeshadow on the eyelid to be perfect and then just stop suddenly. So you don't want to suddenly, you want to just finish it up underneath.
Now, I see that you picked a very natural color for his lips and also a short cut because is there maybe some
A reason,
things,
yeah. Typically when you're working with more the male anatomy, the face tends to be a little bit, like forehead tends to be a little bit wider than a typical female forehead. So he's a little bit wider up here, so we want it to shorten him off. So contouring is another essential component when doing makeup and making sure you know where to contour. So if you're not too sure and you're not too confident on makeup, I do recommend taking a program that's really gonna come a long way and help you out. So we contoured his whole face, but really focused on the forehead, trying to shorten him out. And the cheekbone that's really visible. This hair is gonna help cover his forehead. So it's just gonna shorten it.
So whether or not you're wanting to sort of accentuate certain of your features and maybe incorporate some of the other gender into your looks, it doesn't matter whether you're which way that you're wanting to make changes. Is there a way to get in contact with you and maybe get some classes? You do run those, right?
We do run classes, So we do certification makeup classes.
Osborne?
And one-on-one personal makeup classes. I know that when you're transitioning, it could be quite intimidating and you're not too sure how responsive that person on the receiving end is going to be. So yeah, we're definitely open-minded to working with everyone and believing in equality. And we could be contacted at www.sheriffcosmetics.com for that.
Yes. So yes, this is very good. Thank you.
I enjoyed it. I mean, the experience to me was relaxing, a little bit traumatic at some points when things were being poked in my eye. But other than that, I gained a whole new appreciation for the work that goes into this. It's definitely more than what I expected, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Tobias, and also Amanda for being such really good people here on the show. I really have enjoyed working with both of you.
Likewise.
Welcome back to Transitions. Aisha, could you tell us a little bit about the Human Rights Commission?
Sure. So the Human Rights Commission is an independent agency of the provincial government, and our job is we administer the Human Rights Code, which is the provincial law in this province that protects against discrimination. And it protects against discrimination on the basis of a number of characteristics, so gender identity, sexual orientation, sex, race, ancestry, all of those things. And the idea is that the Commission, we take complaints of discrimination We do that in the public's interest. We investigate them. If there's enough evidence that someone has been discriminated against, then we'll take that complaint and try to prove it in front of an adjudicator, so in a public hearing, and try to get them a remedy that'll put them in the position they would have been in if they hadn't been discriminated against. And then we also have education programs that just promote the principle that all human beings are born equal in their dignity and rights and shouldn't be discriminated against.
Have you been going into schools on their request, and do you go into some employment situations too? And is it always the people who are requesting it, or do you have sort of like a schedule whereby you're hoping to get to X number of public or private schools, or?
Well, we do both. So for years we've had a regular seminar program. So we deliver education on the basics of the Human Rights Code so that people understand their rights and their responsibilities. And those are primarily directed towards businesses, because the Human Rights Code protects against discrimination in employment, in services, which is providing services to the public, hospitals, schools, those kinds of restaurants, stores, and then in housing. So, we do some things towards landlords. So we've got those regular seminars that we do, and then we also, and more so lately, because there's quite a demand, are going out to workplaces, schools, school administrators, and really educating them on the Human Rights Code in any way they want. So we customize the presentation and then try to cover really the basics about what it means to discriminate, about harassment, and give kind of practical tips on what they can do, what kind of policies they can put in place, how they can train their staff. So we do both of those things.
I see. So with regard to people who are transgender, do you see some common issues that are coming up, say in the school system or in employment or in healthcare, that require more attention on the part of us in the community to make it better for people who are transgender?
Yeah, I mean, I think the kinds of complaints that we typically see involve, we still see a number of washroom-related complaints. So the idea is that a transgender person, or, and I use the term transgender or trans really broadly because it's also meant to capture anyone who's gender fluid or in the spectrum, is looking for safe space. So we hear complaints about employers who don't have safe space for those individuals, or schools that are not doing that. And then we just get inquiries. We're getting a lot of inquiries about those who provide public services, or employers who want to know what do they need to do on a proactive basis. So we have a new gender identity guideline. We've revised it somewhat, and we're trying to, in very basic terms, say it's really quite simple. Treat people with dignity, give them safe space. If they have an actual specific need, they're asking you to do something, modify or tweak something, maybe they want a gender neutral space. Talk to them, dialogue with them, see what you can do to accommodate their need. But not just accommodate them, also just remember that people have rights. So transgender people have rights to be in the same space that you do. So it's a little bit of a shift from always looking at the issues as, what can we do to change things for you? How can we accommodate you? And we saw that coming up with the washroom situation, because you can think of perhaps a child in school who has transitioned, let's say from male to female, wants to use the girls' washroom. We really believe that child shouldn't have to feel for the rest of their school life that they've been accommodated, that someone's doing them this special favor. They just have a right to be there. So we're doing a lot of work and responding to inquiries about getting people to shift their minds a little bit. And think about it from it may be, in this case, someone who's transgender. It may be sexual orientation, it might be race. It's the same issues, the same principles apply. People know what they're supposed to do. We just help them along the way.
So, if there was one thing that you would be able to change in the system right now, let's say, or even in terms of the code or the power that the commission has, what would you say you would like to see changed? Because in all systems, there are holes in there,
Right.
gaps.
I think the code is, it has the fundamental protections we need. I think the commission has its mandate to do its work. I think what needs to change is we, and when I mean we, I mean society, needs to be able to see this as not a complicated issue. This is pretty basic. This is about treating people with dignity, with respect, realizing that everyone has a right to equality, to the same opportunities, regardless of their gender identity or their sex or race.
Yes.
It's pretty
Yes,
basic.
yes.
And I think sometimes what we hear is, oh my goodness, this is new and it's so confusing and we really have to think this through. And the message we're trying to get out there is, for sure you should think about it, but it's not that complicated.
I like that. I like what you're saying. It's not that complicated. So it's not that complicated, folks. I think that, let's just try to not just wait for problems to come up in a workplace where you take your, prejudices into the workplace. Start dealing with that at home. And so can we go forward with that then is those of us at home who are maybe watching the show, to really think about how sensitive you were to other people in the community, transgender, whether they're racially different or however they might present different to you, to be a lot better from now on. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And I look forward to further discussions in the future with you.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome back to Transitions. I'm so happy to be here with some very intelligent people and very talented people. And what I'd like to do is talk about our place here in Manitoba and in Canada. Like, where do we fit in terms of the world right now? Are we, because I personally feel that we're on the right path. And what are some indicators of that? Anybody want to make any comments about that?
Well, we have come through a period where we did have an NDP government, so some very progressive legislation was put through. But it seems on the rise of a conservative government that there are many members of parliament that are hostile to these changes, these culture changes that are transforming the world, and they are saying the same obnoxious things and the same ignorant things and the same ill-educated things that are being said in the United States. And we have to be vigilant in our community to fight for people's rights. And I don't understand why elected officials feel that they can give themselves permission to speak about members of their ridings as if they were not members of the ridings or even human beings. And I think that things are going in a bad direction in that sense in terms of the right rising in Canada and not having a federal voice, which makes them more antagonistic. But, we live in a pretty safe place, and every day, you do have to say, this isn't Saudi Arabia, this isn't Egypt, right? People are not being murdered and jailed and imprisoned for their sexual orientation and gender.
Yeah, but certainly, though, on a subtle basis, too, even in our communities and as we interact with people, we have to be ever diligent and to think that we should be treating people with dignity. And did you have any comments about that, where you see things going here in Manitoba in particular?
Yeah, you asked about what are the indicators as to where we're at, and I think we have a couple things. We do have law that protects trans rights, protects against discrimination. We've had it in Manitoba for a long time. It was added to our Human Rights Code in 2012, so that's been for a while. Other provinces and territories have that. The feds are about to introduce the same, or have introduced the same legislation. We hope it'll pass. So there's the legal protection. But I think the other indicator is we're talking about it. Children are talking about it in schools. At all levels of society, we're talking about trans rights. We're not keeping it a secret. We're talking about it like it's part of society, which is the only way that we can make sure that we have inclusive attitudes, right? Is
Kids
to talk
just
about
don't
issues.
seem to care, like in the best way
exactly.
possible.
And I think that, you know, human rights and the teaching of human rights belong to in the home. I mean, the people
Absolutely.
have to take a look at how it is that their attitudes are being passed on to the younger generation, and they have to set an example, or listen to the child sometimes when the child says to them, hey mom, dad, I don't think that that's right. I think that people really need to really sit up and listen.
There's no
when
evidence
kids-
children are born intolerant. You know, they're just not.
For most kids,
Yeah.
I think, I mean, the kids that I've come across, it's a non-issue. The idea of treating people with dignity and respect, no
Correct.
matter what they look like, whether it's race, gender,
Gender.
sexual orientation, it's not, it doesn't bring, we don't, they don't have the same baggage that we might bring to it because we've seen the fight for those rights. So I think that's hopeful. I
That's
think that puts
great.
us in a good place.
So let's go forward, and we can do what we can in our
But I like being
communities.
angry so much.
Makes for a good
Yeah,
discussion.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so
I'll be
we'll have,
happy, I guess.
we'll have to do some more discussion too, about this. But
There's Amanda.
Amanda, I know you've been so wonderful about your cosmetology and your business
in the
and family
field of
business.
cosmetics,
You're
you
so
know.
inclusive.
Yeah, and it was great listening to you guys. I know in the world of cosmetics, so we are getting the transgender community, and it's great. I know that it ranges for different demographics as to how open they are. I've had people wanting to come in, and they're like, please, let's do this in secret. We don't, you know, they're not comfortable being exposed to, being by the window and seeing people, see what they're doing. And, they're exploring a new path in life, and they're not very comfortable exploring that openly to everyone.
I did it in front of hundreds of people, remember, on Canada Day?
Yes,
We were doing this thing.
yes. And others are very open.
So thank you for coming in, all of you, and it's been a real delightful time.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.